The film opens with a fisherman named John, who takes his small boat out to sea to go fishing. But unlike any other day, something strange happens today. Suddenly, a thick fog rolls in from all sides, making it impossible to see anything in the distance. John loses his way. As he wanders around, he spots an abandoned boat. Curious, he ties his boat to it and decides to go inside to check it out. The moment he steps inside, he's shocked. The entire boat is empty. There's nothing but an eerie silence. When John explores the mysterious boat, everything seems completely normal. The food is fresh, the clothes are neatly arranged, and there are clear signs that people were recently there. But no one is present. He tries to start the boat, but the engine doesn't work. Seeing an empty boat stranded in the vast ocean leaves John stunned. He looks around with binoculars, but the dense fog has covered everything. He then returns to the control room and turns on the radio. John sends out a message saying that this boat is stuck in the middle of the sea. After sending the message, he thinks it's best to return to his small boat. But when he steps outside, his boat is gone, even though he had tied it securely. As he looks around, the fog suddenly clears, which shocks him even more. The sky is completely clear, and it's already afternoon. John can't understand what's happening. With no other way to leave, he returns to the empty ship and starts searching for a route using the map. He tries to figure out where he is and how he can get back home. The problem is that the mysterious boat's engine is damaged. If he wants to survive, he has to fix it at any cost. He searches the entire ship for a toolbox, and after a lot of hard work, he finally repairs the engine. This comes as a huge relief. The boat is running again, and he slowly begins to understand the direction he's heading in. But the danger isn't over yet. John goes back to the control room and tries to contact someone over the radio again, but once more there's no response. Everything remains wrapped in mystery. Then he comes up on deck and suddenly feels the urge to use the bathroom. Since no one is around, he thinks he'll just do it in the ocean. As soon as he moves closer to the edge, someone suddenly pushes him from behind. He falls straight into the water. The situation becomes extremely dangerous, but he manages to grab onto a reel and somehow keeps himself from drowning. The wind and water pressure were so intense that getting back to the boat became extremely difficult. But he didn't give up. Gathering his courage, he slowly pulled himself back onto the boat using the reel. In the middle of all this, he still hadn't been able to finish what he went there for, so he headed back to the toilet again. As soon as he went down, someone suddenly slammed the door shut. John first assumed it was just the wind and didn't think much of it. But when he tried to get out, he realized the door was locked from the inside. He was stunned. He tried everything to open the door, even pulled a coin out of his pocket and tried to jam it into the lock, but nothing worked. That's when it hit him. He wasn't alone on this boat. There was someone there, someone he couldn't see, constantly messing with him. It felt like someone was cruelly playing games with him. He shouted loudly, begging, "Whoever you are, please open the door. I'm not a thief. I'm just here to look." But there was no response. He finally understood that hoping for help was pointless. He moved toward the cabin, and what he saw inside made his soul tremble. There were bloodstains everywhere, and the atmosphere was terrifying. Still, he ignored his fear, grabbed a pair of scissors, and tried to force the door open. But the lock still wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the entire boat started shaking violently, as if something huge was about to happen. John was completely panicked. Then his eyes fell on a small window above. Somehow, he managed to climb out through it and looked around. From a distance, a massive cargo ship was heading straight toward his boat. John immediately realized that if the ship collided with them, it would be the end. He thought about signaling, but he had nothing with him. In desperation, he took off his shirt and waved it frantically, hoping someone on the cargo ship would notice him. Sadly, even after all that effort, no one saw him. Then he noticed a rope hanging near the window. He quickly tied it and threw it out, hoping to slow the boat down. But the situation only got worse. The rope got caught in the engine propeller and was pulled back inside the bathroom, wrapping tightly around his neck. He began to choke as his breath slowly slipped away. On the brink of death, he showed incredible courage and freed himself using a tool. His neck was completely red. The rope had gotten stuck in the engine, which brought the ship to a halt. But that wasn't enough. The massive cargo ship still crashed into him. The violent impact shook his boat badly, and John fell to the ground and lost consciousness. He had suffered a deep head injury. After some time, when he regained consciousness, he saw that the bathroom was filled with water. But the most shocking thing was that it wasn't salty seawater. It was completely clean, fresh water. It felt as if someone was deliberately trying to scare him. He said, "Whoever you are, please let me go." But there was no response. By now, he had become extremely weak. He drank water from the bathroom shower, but soon the water ran out. When he started drinking from the sink, he was shocked. The water had turned salty. That's when he realized there must be a hole somewhere in the boat, and seawater was leaking inside. Panicking, he tried to open the door, but someone had locked it from the outside. During the night, it seemed as if some invisible force was controlling the boat. The water level kept rising, and exhausted, John eventually fell asleep. That night, a terrifying storm hit the sea, badly damaging the boat, and John was seriously injured. When he opened his eyes in the morning, the water had risen up to his head. He felt like he had only moments left. Suddenly, he heard a faint clicking sound, as if something had unlocked. As soon as John turned the handle, the door opened. The water pressure was so intense that the door broke off and fell downward, and that's how he managed to escape. After getting out, he climbed onto the roof to breathe fresh air, because the oxygen below was almost gone. By now, he was certain that some invisible force was determined to torment him at any cost. John decided he would not stay on this ship any longer. Then he got an idea. He took airbags from the ship and used the broken bathroom door to build a small raft. He tied everything tightly to make sure the raft would hold. But to survive on the raft, he needed a few more essential things. He collected food, water, and necessary tools from the ship and prepared himself completely. Without looking back, he left the ship, climbed onto the raft, and slowly drifted forward into the sea. He was on the raft, and in front of him, that same large ship was still standing there. Several hours passed, but he neither managed to get very far nor did the boat sink. Then an idea struck him. He could try to fix the leak in the boat. Thinking this through, he went back to the boat. First, he repaired the leak. Then, using pipes and tools, he built a makeshift pump to drain the water. With the help of the pump he had made, the seawater that had filled the boat slowly started flowing out. After fixing the leak and removing the water, he repaired the rest of the ship's problems as well. He even fixed the exterior so there wouldn't be any trouble later in the journey. Once the work was done, he tried calling for help on the radio again. But this time, too, there was no response. Disappointed, he returned, pulled out the map, and once again tried to figure out the route. He attempted to move the boat forward. But the moment he started the engine, the boat stayed completely still. It was as if it had become rooted in the water, and that thought was slowly breaking him from the inside. He was completely exhausted. His hopes were fading. Just then, he saw another ship approaching from a distance. Now he had only one option: to reach that ship using his small raft. He immediately climbed onto the raft and paddled rapidly toward the ship. But suddenly, the ship began to shake and started moving rapidly toward John, as if someone had deliberately sent it straight at him. John increased his speed, but the massive ship accelerated even faster. And just before it could crash into him, John made a final attempt and jumped off his boat, deciding to swim toward the other ship. By the time he reached the spot, that ship had disappeared. He realized that some dark force was tied to this mysterious ship and wasn't letting him escape. He decided he would never return to that boat again. But by evening, as he kept floating in the water, the cold started to intensify. Dolphins were swimming below. The water temperature had dropped drastically. Unable to bear the cold, he was forced to return to the same boat. He was so exhausted and sick that he couldn't think straight anymore. He wrapped himself in a blanket and fell asleep inside the room. When he woke up in the morning, he decided once again to leave the ship. But another shock awaited him. The door of the room was locked. Panic set in, and he slowly began to mentally break down. He couldn't understand why all of this was happening to him. Then his eyes fell on a small cabin inside the room. As soon as he opened it, he noticed a path going upward, a ventilation shaft that could lead outside. He climbed into the cabin, which was actually a narrow storage area. Every time he tried to climb up from the storage area, he slipped and fell back down. He suffered several injuries from the falls, but he refused to give up. Falling again and again, he finally managed to reach the top and tried to open the vent window. But it felt as if it had been deliberately sealed shut. The oxygen there was also running out rapidly. Breathing was becoming difficult. The door below was locked, and he couldn't go back into the room. It started to feel like this might be his final moment. But then, once again, he heard that same clicking sound. A mysterious noise echoed. As soon as the cabin window clicked open with a sharp sound, John didn't waste a second and climbed out. The fresh air gave him some relief. Once outside, he saw that the boat was moving toward a small island. Seeing this filled him with hope. Maybe he would finally be free from this terrifying boat forever. As soon as the boat reached the shore, he jumped off immediately. He felt certain that someone on this island had to be responsible for everything that had happened. In anger, he picked up a stick and began searching the island. But soon he was shocked. Across the entire island, there was no sign of any human presence. Now John was filled once again with fear and rage. As he stepped away from the island, a new scene appeared before his eyes. The same mysterious boat that had brought him here was now moving calmly across the sea, as if searching for another victim. Seeing this, John became completely convinced that both the boat and the island were under the control of some evil force. No matter what, he had to get out of there. While exploring, he reached the highest point of the island, and from there spotted another island in the distance. But it was so far away that he couldn't make out what was happening there. As John continued wandering around the island, he slowly made his way back toward the rear. But when he reached there, his eyes widened in shock. It was the very place where his journey had begun. Everything was exactly the same. His old boat tied up in the same spot and the same people around, as if nothing had changed at all. The entire atmosphere felt identical, like nothing had ever happened. John stood there, staring in disbelief. He couldn't believe what felt like a horrible nightmare had actually happened to him. But now the questions remained. How did his boat return there again? And what was the truth behind this island? He couldn't tell whether it was all real or just a bad dream. But whatever he went through was real. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.